Picture the darkness of 1912. No streetlights to cut the gloom. No hum of distant highways. Just a silence so absolute it feels heavy, pressing against your eardrums. It is June 9th. The air is thick, humid, and suffocating. The kind of heat that sticks your shirt to your back and makes the air feel like soup. In the small town of Villisca, Iowa, the only way to survive the night is to surrender your security. You crack the windows. You leave the doors unlatched to catch a cross breeze. You trust the night. But on 2nd Street, inside a white frame house, the night had teeth. The lie of safety. Villisca was a postcard of American innocence. It was the kind of place where a lock was considered an insult to your neighbor. Joe Moore was a successful businessman, perhaps a bit sharp-elbowed, but respected. Sarah, his wife, was the backbone of the home. They had 4 children: Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul. That evening, 2 neighborhood girls, Lena and Ina Stillinger, had asked to stay over. 8 people, 1 house. They went to the Children's Day service at the Presbyterian Church. They sang hymns about light and salvation. They walked home under the starlight, laughing, their shoes crunching on the gravel. They ate cookies. They said their prayers. They climbed into their beds, exhausted and happy. They didn't know that the darkness inside the house was already occupied. The man in the attic. This is the detail that makes the hair on your arms stand up. Forensic recreation suggests the killer didn't break in after they fell asleep. He was already there. While the Moores were at church, singing praises, a stranger slipped through the unlocked back door. He didn't steal silver. He didn't look for cash. He went to the attic. Imagine him up there, cramped, crouching in the pitch black, smelling the dust and the dry wood. He smoked cigarettes, waiting. He listened to the family come home. He heard the children giggling. He heard the bedtime stories. He heard the springs of the mattresses creak as they settled in. He waited for the breathing to change. He waited for the rhythm of deep sleep. He sat in the dark, directly above their heads, holding an oil lamp he had taken the chimney off of, so the wick would burn tiny and dim, casting just enough light to see a throat, but not enough to wake a soul. The weapon of opportunity. Sometime after midnight, the floorboards groaned. He descended the narrow stairs. He didn't bring a gun. Guns are loud. He didn't bring a knife. Knives are close work. He walked to the coal shed in the backyard and picked up Joe Moore's own axe. He walked back in. The silence of the house remained unbroken. This wasn't a frenzy. This was a job. He started in the parents' room. Joe and Sarah. The axe swung. The ceiling in the bedroom actually has gouge marks, evidence that he swung the axe so high and so hard that the backswing chipped the plaster before the blade came down. Joe died first. Then Sarah. And here is the miracle that is actually a curse. Nobody woke up. The killer moved from room to room with the silence of a ghost. He walked into the children's room. Herman, Catherine, Boyd, Paul. Then, the guest room downstairs. Lena and Ina. 8 people, wiped from the earth. And the neighbors, sleeping just yards away, heard nothing but the wind. The ritual of madness. If he had just killed them and left, it would be a tragedy. But what he did next makes it a horror story. The killer didn't flee. The adrenaline didn't push him out the door into the safety of the night. He stayed. He took cloths and clothing and covered the victims' faces. Why? Was it regret? Or did he just not want them watching him? Then, he went to the mirrors. Every mirror in the house. The dresser vanity. The wall hangings. He took skirts and aprons and draped them over the glass. He covered the windows with bedding, pinning them tight so not a single ray of morning sun could enter. He turned the house into a tomb. And then, he got hungry. He went to the kitchen. He found a plate of food. He washed his bloody hands in a pan of water, leaving a swirling crimson soup for the police to find, and he ate. He sat in a house filled with 8 cooling corpses, the smell of copper and death rising in the humid air, and he had a midnight snack. Part 3. The Discovery. 7:30 a.m. Monday. The sun is up. The birds are singing. But the Moore house is silent. The neighbor, Mary Peckham, is hanging laundry. She frowns. No Joe leaving for work. No Sarah cooking breakfast. No kids bursting out the door. She knocks. Hollow thud. She tries the door. Locked. The killer had locked it from the inside and left through the back, taking the keys. She calls Joe's brother, Ross. Ross arrives. He peers through a window, past the makeshift curtains. He sees someone on the bed. But they aren't moving. He forces the door. The air that rushed out of that house wasn't just stale, it was heavy with a scent that primal instinct recognizes instantly. Ross walked out seconds later. His face was gray. He didn't scream. He just said, strictly and quietly, "Get the marshal. Someone has been murdered in every bed." The paranoid aftermath. The town of Villisca broke. The killer was never caught. Think about that. He walked out the back door, dropped the axe, and vanished into the cornfields. He could have been a drifter. He could have been the traveling minister who had muttered strange things about, "Suffer the little children," the night before. He could have been a neighbor. People bought locks. They nailed their windows shut in the middle of summer, sweating in the terror of the dark. They bought guard dogs. Fathers sat on porches with shotguns on their laps, staring at the shadows, wondering if the Villisca Axe Murderer was watching them back. The house still stands. The house was never torn down. It sits there today, 508 East 2nd Street. It has been renovated to look exactly as it did in 1912. The same wallpaper. The same beds. No electricity. No plumbing. And people go there. They pay to sleep there. But very few make it through the night. Paranormal investigators call it Ground Zero. Why? Because the violence was so sudden, so extreme, that it scarred the atmosphere itself. Visitors report the sensation of a heavy weight on their chest, like someone sitting on them. They hear the sound of children crying in the closet. Flashlights turn on and off by themselves. Doors slam shut when there is no draft. A dragging sound, like an axe handle bumping against floorboards, is heard in the hallway. Some have recorded a voice. A rough, gravelly whisper that cuts through the static of digital recorders. It says simply, "I killed them." The last question. The scariest thing about Villisca isn't the ghosts. It's the reality. It's the fact that a human being, flesh and blood, had the patience to wait in an attic for hours. The strength to swing an axe without hesitation. The calmness to eat a meal afterward. And the luck to walk away forever. He was a monster, but he looked like a man. So, tonight, when you lie in bed, and the house settles. When you hear that random pop of the floorboard. When the closet door looks just a fraction of an inch more open than you left it. Don't close your eyes. Because in 1912, the Moore family thought they were safe, too.